In the damaged one, Brian Forsythe from Kicks.
Hey,
How are you?
good.
Good to see you. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And make
I
you
don't, I don't know if I've ever seen those cassette singles. I've got
yeah.
actual 45s.
These were the cassette answer to 45s once those were
Yeah,
drying up. I just did I wrote a whole article on these the other day. When 45s just weren't the thing, they decided, well, we want to make a few bucks, and some people don't want to hear the whole album, which we did. Back in the day, we listened to everything from start to finish because it was so, at least on a record, you could find the groove. But with the
right.
cassette, it was so hard to get to that song. And I think that's why they released these, the big hits. Yeah, this is great. I've got a bunch of the 80s songs up there. Let me put these aside. All right. Brian, how was COVID for you? How was the pandemic? I saw you were doing some cooking shows on YouTube, keeping yourself busy.
Yeah. You know, I talked to a lot of people during that time, and it seemed like people were just going stir crazy.
Yeah.
But personally, I really enjoyed it. I like being alone, and I've been living here in Nashville for about 2 years now, and I'm by
Oh,
myself
nice.
in this house, and it was great.
Yeah, I think I rediscovered myself. I mean, I've got a family here. We spent more time with the family because I'm in a few bands myself, and I was so busy before the pandemic hit,
Mhm.
and then we were forced to not go anywhere, be at home, and I really enjoyed that time, and I've scaled down since. But I started this show during the pandemic, which I probably wouldn't have done,
Right.
and I started learning the ukulele. That didn't last long, but I got a few months out of it. So kind of a blessing, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and that whole cooking thing, that was just, I was just doing it for fun. I haven't actually done one in a while now. I kind of got burned out on it, but I'll probably continue at some point.
Absolutely. So what's going on with Kicks these days? I know your last album was what, 2014,
Yeah.
2015. Are you guys in the studio? You're writing? Are you producing anything else?
Well,
I know you're touring, so
yeah, it's starting back up. In fact, next week. Um, yeah, a lot of people have asked us about that since all this downtime. They figured we'd be doing all kinds of new music, but nah, that didn't happen.
yeah.
I mean, we've talked about it, but I live down here in Nashville, and well, especially during COVID, everybody was kind of paranoid about traveling and getting
Yeah.
together and all that stuff.
Do you think it's something like when you start touring and you're with the guys again, you're ramping up, the energy's high again? It's like we got to write something on the bus.
Maybe I don't know. Well, nowadays there's no bus.
No, there's a bus. Oh,
No, it's Southwest Airlines. We just
okay.
we just fly in and fly out, and so there's not a whole lot of like downtime. We get in the night before. The next day, it's like sound check, the show, then we go back to the room, pack our junk, and then the next morning we're out of there. So,
You said you like being alone, but do you still enjoy touring? You still enjoy being on the road,
um,
sort of in the
well,
sky?
I did until it stopped. Now I'm like heading into it. I'm going, oh man, do I really want to do this? But I will. Once it gets up and running, I'll be right back into it again. It's like riding a bike.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys are actually coming to my area. You're going to be at Mohegan Sun, the casino, on August 23rd. That's what 7th, excuse me. And then the next night, you're at a great place called the Greasy Luck in New Bedford. And
Yeah,
I believe my buddies are opening for you in Bad Marriage. I think you might meet them that night.
yeah.
They were a great band influenced by early rock, 80s rock, AC/DC, and of course, you guys. Speaking of AC/DC, over my shoulders here, um, is it safe to say that AC/DC was a huge influence on Kicks? I know you guys had a lot of influences, but I hear a lot of AC/DC in some of your songs.
Yes, definitely. Yeah,
Okay.
it's funny when we first started. Like we didn't stumble onto ACDC until I'm trying to think of when that happened. Probably late '79 or so. A friend of ours took us for a ride in his car and stuck this ACDC cassette in. Speaking of cassettes, and I remember all of a sudden, what was it? Problem Child came blasting out of the speakers, and it was like, man, this is like it was so good. And I think I had heard of them here and there before that, but that was the first time it really struck me. And I remember, I think it struck everybody because because we were still doing cover songs at that point. So we started doing a bunch of AC/DC. And before that, we did like a variety of stuff. I mean, we always had our own songs mixed in, but we did Aerosmith, the Stones, Led Zeppelin, Cheap Trick, all that stuff. But as soon as we discovered AC/DC, it was like this. We discovered this thing that was like easy to play, sounded good no matter what, had this just drive to it, and so I think, especially Donnie, it really struck him because it influenced the songwriting definitely.
Yeah, I think it was Hotwire that has a lot of those influences in it, especially the kick-ass guitar at the beginning. And then I don't know if you did it on purpose or out of tribute, but there's a little bit of "Have a Drink on Me" when everything stops and down, 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 down.
Oh, maybe.
I know. I hate asking that question because some bands might take offense. Like, our music's our music. We're not influenced by anybody.
No.
But that's not a bad band to be influenced by.
Right. I hate that when people do that. They're obviously influenced by a certain band and they'll go, who? Act like they don't even know who the band is. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, because even those bands were influenced by somebody else, and everybody was influenced by the blues. So congratulations, and I know it was last year, but 35 years on Midnight Dynamite. You guys reissued a 2 CD remaster, and it's got the demos on it too, which is fun to listen to. How did that go? It came out during COVID, but how did that go?
What do you mean? How did it go?
Just the release and the anticipation from the fans and the acceptance of the fans.
Oh, I think everybody seemed to like it. It's hard to tell, because we're kind of cut off from civilization,
out of touch. Yeah,
but everything I've heard that people seem to like it. So
yeah, are you going to do another one for "Blow My Fuse" in what? It'll be 3 years. Will be the 35th.
Well, we did one before Midnight Dynamite. We had that one remixed. In fact, Bo Hill did that one too. That was the first one. He what was the anniversary for that? I forget. Maybe it was 25 years. It could be 25. I can't keep track.
It's going by so fast, man. I mean, when I heard that you guys really got your start in like 1978, 1979, I'm thinking, where did the time go?
I know. Well, the crazy thing is, I initially left the band in '93 and moved out to LA, and then those guys kind of fizzled out around '95. So there was like this whole almost a 10-year gap. And since then, it's already been, I mean, how many years is it now? Almost 20 years. It's like crazy how long. And it had been, I think when I left, it was 19. I had been in the band 19 years at that point.
Yep. And you have the original lineup right now. Just one guy, right, is missing?
Yeah, we have a different bass player.
Okay. How is it? I mean, obviously, you pretty much grew up with these guys. Is it like family? Is it like, the distance is good? It's always nice to see everybody, but, we can't live in the same house anymore or in the same apartment.
Right. Yeah, I remember when we got Steve from Piedmont, West Virginia, and he moved down to Hagerstown, and I was living in this big house with actually it was I married at that point? Maybe I wasn't even married. My future ex-wife. But it was her and her sister was there. And then her sister's boyfriend played in the band with Steve. But that's how we found out about Steve. So when we took Steve, that band broke up. So he moved in with his girlfriend in our house. And then Steve came down and he moved into the back bedroom in that house. So it was like this whole house full of people. But yeah, those days are definitely gone. But we all we've been around each other for so long. We all know each other's moods and know when to stay out of the way. But we all still get along too. So it's cool.
How is Steve? I can't imagine Kicks being Kicks without Steve, obviously.
Oh no, I couldn't.
And he still has it too. I was listening to the 2014 album, and he still got the pipes and the attitude. I think it's mostly the attitude.
Yeah. He's just a natural born performer.
Well, so before you guys get started, Brian has and I knew this. That was the original name of the band, right? Shoes.
Yes.
Was that right? How many incarnations of Kix were there until you got to Kix and finally got that first album out back in the early '80s and decided this is the direction we're going?
Well, the first, it was Ronnie, Donnie Purnell, and me with a different drummer to begin with. It was just four of us, and that was in my parents' basement in 1977. And then in '78 we got one singer, this guy from Buffalo. His name was Ed, so we called him Buffalo Ed, and he never made it out of the basement. And then we got a guy named Terry Brady, who was in a band with Donnie previously, who was a really good singer, but after Donnie and him stopped playing together, he got married. So he came back to sing with us, but he was married, and his wife was like, kind of like she wasn't into it for him to go back out playing again. So that didn't last long either. So then we got a third guy, this guy named Sam Smith, who was a great singer, but a kind of awkward and gawky and not really the right guy. So we did go through a few people, and then when was it? I guess 70, 78, early 79 is when we stumbled onto Steve, because we decided we didn't want the Sam Smith guy anymore. And we started trying out a few people and just nothing was working. And then we heard about Steve, and we rode up to this little dive bar in West Virginia. And Steve was behind the drums. He was a drummer, but he was singing Led Zeppelin. So we're like, oh man, this guy can sing. So we took him out to the car, played him the tape, and he was starstruck because he was from this tiny little town. And, you know, we were from the big city, Hagerstown, Maryland. but yeah, we sold him. We played him our original demos, and told him we were going to get a record deal and all that stuff. And like a week later, he was moving down to Hagerstown.
There was so many. Well, there's so much to talk about with the '80s, and I don't know if you care for the term hair bands, hair metal. You guys, whatever, it made you money. You guys came in at just the right time with Midnight Dynamite, '85, right?
Yeah.
And then I think the big arena shows and everything was ramped up by '88. And then even by '91, as it was getting a little quiet right before grunge came, you guys put out another album. So you were right there from the start, the middle, and right towards the end, with a lot of hits on every album as well. When you're doing your first couple albums, '81, '84, whenever that was, and then you see this movement, in music, this shift with the glam and was it a natural transfer of power, so to speak, to that time period? Or was that something you guys had to say, okay, we have to change our way. We got to change our look just a little bit. We got to add a little bit more energy. What was that process like going through that hairband era?
Well, it wasn't really a conscious thing.
It just happened.
We just sort of went with the flow, I think. We didn't really discuss anything. And like, I know myself personally, I've always been like a Keith Richards fan, and he's always been that kind of grungy, glammy look, especially the early '70s.
Yeah.
And so when all that stuff started happening, like Hanoi Rocks and all that, it just sort of, like, I went from being like, when we started, like, our first record, I think we kind of fashioned ourselves after like the Ramones, because we were coming out of the '70s at that point.
Right.
And so we all wore tennis shoes and jeans and leather jackets, and then the look started to sort of change. And I remember it sort of gave me permission to just go ahead and do the Keith thing, because that's what I've always been into. So that's kind of how that evolved. And there's always like more extreme periods and less extreme, and but we never really we weren't trying to follow the trends or anything. We were just sort of going along with things. And I mean, I'm sure Donnie's songwriting was influenced by the times, but but not so much. I mean, we weren't saying, "Oh, we got to write a song like that," or "We got to look like that," or it was for us. It was more. I felt like it was natural.
Yeah.
We weren't like doing something that trying to do something that we weren't.
You hear so many bands tell the stories about how when grunge did hit, they kind of went away a bit. That whole the party was over, so to speak. Did you
Right.
see that coming as a musician? Did you see that shift coming? Because Nevermind came out well before the actual movement happened.
Right.
Did you smell anything? Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's weird. It was more like we could feel it within the record business. Like we put Hotwire out and Blow
It's a
My Fuse.
fantastic CD, by the way.
Yeah, it's actually it was my favorite
Was it? Yeah.
because I just figured to top Blow My Fuse. I thought that was the next step, and it was just another step up, and we thought because Blow My Fuse did so well that album was just going to blow up, and we'd be AC/DC or something.
Yeah.
And I remember right the week it was released, we had to have a meeting up in New York City at Atlantic Records. Or actually, that came out on East West, which is part of Atlantic. But we had to meet with the head of East West, and we're in his office, and we're talking about the plans for the record and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, he goes, "Oh, I got to show you something," and he pulls his desk drawer out and pulls out the Nirvana CD. He goes, "This is the next big thing," and we're like, "Uh-oh." That was the sign, and we just saw it, and it was like, uh, it was weird because when Hotwire first came out, it kind of came out with a bang, and they were behind it at first, and they were sending Steve and I all around the country doing all this press, and we thought, wow, this is really cool, but not that far into it. In fact, it was when we were doing a video for Tear Down the Walls, and we thought, wow, Don't Close Your Eyes was huge. This ballad's going to be even bigger. And we were halfway through filming, and we get this call to that's it, cut it off, stop it.
Wow.
Pack it up. We're not putting any more money into this record. That's the end of it. And we hadn't even gotten that far with it yet. And that was actually the clear sign. And I remember thinking, oh, and in all the big arena tours were starting to sort of just die. Because I remember the last few we went on, it was like a struggle. I mean, we weren't headlining, so it wasn't our responsibility, but
Yeah.
but the crowds weren't like they were, and I just saw it, and I could see like our gigs were going to start getting less and less, like going back down that ladder that we had just climbed, and that's why I jumped ship. I just saw it was slowly starting to sink at that point.
Yeah. After you jumped ship, did you move into that sound with other projects? Were you, no, you were just like, enough of this?
No, I was really resistant against that whole '90s thing.
What about now? What about reflecting on that and looking back? Because I
I,
was trying to hold on to the glam as well. That was my jam and I loved it. And as much as I did enjoy what Nirvana was doing, I don't think I got it as much as I related to the glam rock, to the 80s stuff. So I'm with you. But now looking back, I appreciate it a little bit more. I don't appreciate that they took the spotlight, but
well, I mean, with every era of music, there's the good and the bad, and so there's some good stuff in there. But yeah, I kind of overlooked it. In fact, the whole '90s for me was a blur. Those were kind of like my drug days.
yeah. So there's a resurgence, though. I mean, you're back on the road, and every band is out there doing their thing again. Maybe not playing the stadiums. I saw you and Whitesnake, 1990, I believe it was, at the Worcester Centrum, and I think that may have been one of the last big arena shows that I saw with those bands. But now it's fantastic to be able to go to a casino or a theater in Boston or like New Bedford, where you guys are going to be, and get a little bit more up close and personal with some of our heroes. Are you enjoying? I don't want to say the smaller spotlight. That's not what I mean, but I think you understand what I mean.
No, actually, yeah. That's the one good thing that came out of it was we got a taste of the arena tours and stuff back
You
then.
lived it. You got it. You had that in your life.
Yeah, but our main thing were always the dive bars. I mean, we never we'd come off of a tour and go right back to the clubs. So we were pretty much at home at a club.
Oh, nice. So it's a little bit easier this time around
Yeah,
touring in
yeah.
those clubs. Hey, you want to talk about Vince Neil at all?
Vince Neil?
Yeah.
And what
Have
way?
you have you seen any of the videos lately of him? I mean, they're back on the road with Poison and Def Leppard and Joan Jett. And over the last couple of days, some video has surfaced of him singing recently,
Oh, I
and
heard a rumor.
it's not very good. And I was just wondering what your thoughts might be on aging musicians and knowing or not knowing when it's time to leave.
Well, yeah, we've done some shows in the past with Vince Neil, um, and well, some guys don't age as well as others, and like some guys don't take care of themselves, and
I think that's the biggest thing with this issue is that he's not taking care of himself.
yeah, and also like even Steve, who does take care of himself. There was a point when we first started back up again, and he wasn't used to singing all this stuff, where he was having some problems, and I think it was mostly because he hadn't done it in a while. But as you get older, your voice changes, and
Sure.
he basically had to go back and relearn how to sing. He had to teach himself because his range, he can still hit the high stuff, but his little crossover point
Yeah.
in his vocals changed. So he had to learn how to compensate for that, which he did. But some of these people, they just sort of think they're going to just power through it. And well, I think Vince just holds the mic out and lets the crowd sing.
He does, yeah, and he doesn't sing the lyrics either. That's another thing. It's I don't say, but I say it. What did you say, man? Anyway, I don't want to bash the guy. He's got his demons and whatever we all do, but I just want to get your opinion on aging musicians and whether they should stay or go. I mean, keep going as long as you can. Now,
Yeah,
as a
well, or reinvent yourself or something,
yeah,
or just figure out a better way to do it. There's always
I
ways.
mean, I think the rest of the guys did it. I think Nikki Sixx has a project that's a little bit different than he's used to, and Tommy Lee became a DJ. So yeah, you can do that. It's you guys make it tough on speaking of aging musicians. I'm in a cover band. I have a lot of friends who are in cover bands. We may do a song like "Don't Close Your Eyes." We'll know our limits because I'm almost 50 years old. I can't sing like I used to, and the crowd gets so upset if you're not hitting the notes that were written and sung 30 years ago. And it's a grind being in a cover band trying to sing these classic songs. And I just look at them and I go, well, those guys made a lot of money and I'm taking home $75 tonight. And that's that's before my bar tab. Anyway, Brian, hey, it was great to talk to you. Great to catch up. Huge fan of Kicks. I don't know if I said that from the start, but I am. I've got different um, top 5 lists as far as my music preferences go, and I've got like maybe 10 different lists for the '80s, and you guys are always right up there. It's so much fun. The music is rocking. The new CD 2014, that's still relatively new. I encourage people to go get that because it's a throwback to the older stuff, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that was fun to do. It
Yeah.
was scary going into it, but once it was done, and looking back at it, it was like, man, we kind of pulled that off.
Well, congratulations on that. And we look forward to seeing you August 27th at Mohegan Sun and the 28th at the Greasy Luck in New Bedford. And be on the lookout for that opening band. I think Bad Marriage is opening, my buddies.
Okay.
Take care of yourself. Love to catch up again sometime.
Yeah, it was my pleasure.
All right. Take care.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.